I'm joined now by Tue Jakobsen. He's Program Director of Care International in Northwest Syria in Gaziantep, Turkey, which is near the Syrian border. Thank you so much for being on our program. So tell us, from your perspective, what this new offensive by the Syrian government, what does it mean for the 3 million people who are still living in Idlib?
Yeah, good morning and thanks for having me. It's a very dramatic situation. We have around 3 million people, as you say, in the province. It's important to remember that a big part of these people have already been displaced from their homes, if not one, but multiple times before. Since the shelling and the heavy air bombardment started around a month ago, we've seen more than 270,000 people fleeing homes, getting out on the roads and seeking essentially safer places to stay in the northern parts of Idlib, closer to the Turkish border. We've seen more than 21 health facilities, as reported by the UN, has either been indirectly or directly targeted as part of this offensive. We've seen a high number of schools attacked, and of course also a very high number of civilians affected by this. So it's a very dramatic situation, and as the situation continues to escalate, it's about to be probably the biggest humanitarian catastrophe we've seen in Syria so far.
Now, are you anticipating more people to make their way from Idlib and head towards Turkey?
It's difficult to say. I mean, for now, the border areas on the Syrian side close to Turkey is extremely crowded already. They have for years been sort of the most safe areas. And so there's already, if not hundreds of thousands, millions that are residing in makeshift camps, unfinished buildings, and trying to seek basic assistance and protection there. Whether they will cross the border or not is uncertain, but you can ask yourself, where would people go when there's nowhere else to go, essentially?
Well, we do know that Turkey is already home to more than 3.5 million refugees. So what's next for them?
That's right. Turkey is the biggest refugee hosting country in the world. CARE is working both inside Syria as part of our humanitarian response to this crisis, and also in Turkey, supporting the refugees there. It's of course, a lot more stable situation on the Turkish side of the border. There is access to basic services, but it's important to remember that with such a high amount of refugees, resources are depleted, and the Turkish society is stretched to its limits to try and cope with this massive amount of refugees.
All right, Tue Jakobsen, Director of Care International in Syria, many thanks indeed for your insights.
Thanks for having me.